A lot of businesses that have failed have not done well to understand the business terrain where they operate. Getting data is not a problem. The problem, like I said, is how to use this data. All the information we need are at our fingertips. We just need to find out how we can use them. If you don't have data concerning the sector that you want to delve into, there is no way you're going to be making sound and informed decisions that will help you to maximize the potentials of your idea. So, as an entrepreneur, it's always good to study the terrain.
All right, good afternoon to you and welcome to Just Africa. We are reaching you live from Souk News Television. Now, we spotlight the forces reshaping Africa's economy. And today, we turn our attention and our focus to data-driven Africa, how analysts can unlock business growth across the continent. Enterprises are awakening to the power of data, not just by a product of transactions, but as a strategic asset for decision-making, innovation, and competitiveness, from fintech and banks to retail, health, logistics, and agriculture. Data-driven insights are emerging as the new currency of growth, business, economy, and development. Welcome once again to Just Africa. I am Oyin Priye Kurumale. Many thanks for joining us. Good afternoon to you, Olumide.
Good afternoon, Priye. So glad to be here. I'm Olumide Shokoya.
Yes. Sometimes when I think we begin to sound like a broken record, and I want us to have something quite specific, peculiar, different from the norm. And when I say that I want us to have something like that, it's going to actually be focused on, we all talk about data.
Yes.
What kind of data do banks go for? What kind of data do fintechs run after? What kind of data do we have e-commerce firms run after? What kind of data do we have telecommunication giants run after? How do you use data to study consumer or customers or clients' behavior? Because sometimes it sounds quite more psychological to me than something that's staring me at the face, and something that we need really to engage one another. So our guests will be joining us today. However, I want to know the kind of data that drives business when we come to energy. I want to know the kind of data that drives the fintechs, the banks, and how the data scientists within these industries and within these sectors utilize or deploy this data to achieve their end goal. And when we look at the data market, not only in Nigeria and in Africa, it tends to say a lot about how the perspective, or the potential that it has for business growth and for economic development, and some of them are reeled out hundreds of thousands and millions of data, of dollars rather, that this data can actually provide or make as profit returns for organizations. So I'm quite curious, so that I don't regurgitate what we have actually spoken before.
Data is the new gold.
Like that's beginning to sound like a cliche,
It's a new gold. It's actually the new gold, because for every business idea to come into reality, research has to be done prior to that time. And research relies on what? Data. Accurate data. Because whatever you are researching on, you need data. Whatever target-based demography or whatever, you need reliable data. Now, do you know that for each time you are on social media, for any time you're on, excuse me, on the internet, whatever site you click on, it's being monitored.
Well,
that's another debate. It's being monitored and compiled together. So Google and the rest of them, they have that information. I think they refer to as cookies and the rest of them. They have that information, which they now sell to other people, advertisers and all that. So it will help advertisers know, for instance, maybe you like sport, so you click on every sports site. That data is accumulated and sold. So when an advertising or a betting company or something related to sport wants to advertise, that data is what they go after. So their adverts or their product is directed to those that fall within that category.
Okay, so sometimes one begins to ask questions because I know the small...
That's why some sites, sorry to go to, that's why some sites, when you enter, there's a disclaimer, there's a permission that's been requested that some of your data might be used for something. Do you allow or not? You can decide to allow, you can decide not to allow. It's your own prerogative.
Okay. But we all know that the African economy relies more on the informal sector.
Yes.
And the informal sector is the biggest, the informal industry is the biggest of all.
Yes.
That actually feels, bring in more the more people that are not employed in the unemployed market, consumed and suck them in.
Yes.
So when we look at for the African who is into SMEs and he wants to set up a business, do you think they take the pain to go through research? Though it's the right thing to do, but do they take the pain to go through research to get some form of data that is that'll be useful for their businesses to run on, for them to get or make profit? Do they go through that when they're trying to set up their business and they are making capital expenditures or the assets and what they need to run the business? By the time they put everything together, do you think some of them might be considering going to Google or going to telecommunication giants to want to purchase data so they can use it to study the consumer body language, what the consumer needs and what time the consumer needs it, and how many consumers click on a specific site or a specific products, because each of the time they go visiting the web, those are the things they go out looking for. Is it all SMEs that will have that kind of money to invest in such amount?
Now, we have formal research, which is done the normal way. You do your own research or you hire a research company, you pay them to do the research and they give you. Then we have the informal research, which is informal based, whereby, for instance, I want to invest in a barbing salon. I would speak to one or two people. That's me researching.
Yeah.
I could speak to you at Priye. I want to go into barbing. Okay, maybe you have a barbing salon. Tell me, what's it like? I could speak to even the barber. That's another way of research, but it's not just the normal way whereby data is collected, you analyze it, and every other, then you give your submissions, thesis, and the rest of them. But some form of research is actually being done. Now, for those in the bigger companies, when you hire the services of Google and the rest of them, they have that data. It's not for you to determine who your product. They would give you the breakdown of where even the age grade, the age demographic. They will give you everything, and they will channel. It's their own data. They will not reveal it to you, but they will just channel it to the right people who needs to see. The same with YouTube and the rest of them. That's why YouTube videos is directed at those who actually want it. That's those who actually frequently listen to a particular type of video or watch a particular kind of maybe sports and the business. They have that. Now, when you talk about data also, I think one of the most reliable data will be the financial institutions. They have, yes, to a large number, we still have unbanked people. And I think the financial institutions, they have that data. I think the National Identification Management Agency, they also have data. I think the CAC also have data of registered businesses. They have that data. But for the informal sector, we've not been able to really capture them. But some form of way, I believe in the informal sector, some form of way, the barbers, the meat sellers, and they have some form of, maybe it's deposit money banks or financial institutions, the regular conventional financial, they have some form of investment in these institutions.
Great. Well, let's break it further. Data-driven Africa, how analysts can unlock business growth, refers to the system or the systematic use of data collected, analyzed, and interpreted to guide strategic and operational decisions that drive profitability, efficiency, and innovation across the African businesses. It means moving beyond intuition-based decision-making to evidence-based strategies powered by technologies such as big data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and simulation modeling. We already have our guest standing by to join this conversation. Joining us today on the program is Dr. Goodluck Norum. He is the head of Department of Business Administration and director of the Center for Data Analytics and Simulation at Caleb University, a distinguished scholar and practitioner in business strategy and data science. Dr. Norum specializes in applying quantitative modeling, simulation, and analytics to solve complex business and policy problems. His research spans business intelligence, digital transformation, and the role of analytics in organizational competitiveness. He has advised both public and private sector organizations on leveraging big data for growth and efficiency, and is deeply committed to advancing Africa's capacity in data-driven innovation. Dr. Norum, you are welcome to Just Africa. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Great, you're welcome. Now, my colleague Olumide and other people, they've been sounding like broken record. Data is the new crude. Data is the new gold. Data is the new thing. And to that extent, people know I've started running around studying data science. They've been diversifying their career so they can be useful in different fronts. So please, when we talk about data and its relevance to business, economy, and to development, what exactly do you think we're talking about, and what kind of data do you think we are referring to?
Thank you. Data is very important. It is very important to know that data, of course, is the new crude. Data is the new oil. And the reason for that is because when you look at the previous mainstay of Nigeria, which is oil, you find out that technology has made oil to be somewhat, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but attention is shifting to data. Now, the reason for that is simple. Data drives a lot of decisions that has to be made in business. Data drives a lot of intuition. Gone are the days when businesses run on sentiments or run on emotions. Okay, emotion is needed, but data drives a lot of decisions that has to be made in the boardroom, in the shop floor, in the market. Data is relevant, and businesses should better focus on how to harness this data effectively to influence profit making, to influence market share growth, to influence competitive advantage. And what kind of data are we talking about? We're talking about data that has to do with, for example, consumer data. Sometimes, as a business, you want to understand how many people are actually making use of your product, how many people are actually making use of, subscribing to your services. And there is no way you will understand or know about this if you don't have data. All right, if you don't collect data concerning your business performance, your business processes. For example, again, if you look at the media, you find out that the media houses, they want to understand how many people tune into our programs, how many people take decisions or take actions after listening to our program. These are data that they need to drive a lot of insights. So data is relevant as far as business growth is concerned.
Okay. All right.
All right. So, if I might go forward, how can data, since we have all, or we somehow agreed that data is the new goal, for an emerging investor or entrepreneur, how can he make maximum use of that data to maximize profit, to increase his profit out or his output, basically?
Sorry, I didn't get you well. You were a little bit, your voice was a little bit low.
All right, so I'm saying for an emerging entrepreneur or an intending entrepreneur, how can he maximize the use of data for maximum profit?
All right, of course. You have a business idea. You don't just want to run into establishing that idea. You want to understand this area I am delving into. What is obtainable there? How many people, how many businesses have been there before? What are their progress like? What are their success rates? You want to find out what is it that has been done before in this area, and how best can I pitch in my tent? And what can help you make such decision is your data. If you don't have data concerning the sector, concerning the area that you want to delve into, there is no way you're going to be making sound and informed decisions that will help you to maximize the potentials of your idea. So, as an entrepreneur, it's always good to study the terrain, study the environment. How many customers can I get from this area? How many possible opportunities are existing in this area? What is the data saying concerning customer problem, concerning customer wants, concerning consumer preferences? You need to have a lot of this data at hand before you can make any decision. Otherwise, you find yourself making decisions based on intuition. And intuition is good, but most times intuition don't get you the profit you want. Intuition don't get you the market share you want. Rather, it is how you use the data available, all right, how you harness the data available that can help you to make, much in terms of the profit that you are looking for or the market share that you are trying to harness eventually.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, going further now, let's look at the informal sector. First question: do you think that data is really important to the informal sector? I'm talking about the Emeka who sells spare parts, or the Nkechi who has a salon, or a person who has a barbershop. How can they utilize this data? Some of them require word of mouth advertising or recommendation, whereby one person goes and says, "Oh, I've traded with this person, I've done something with this person, he is good." So most of them rely on this kind of advert. So how can they utilize, or is it actually useful to them, the informal sector?
The informal sector would be able to harness data properly if they follow these guidelines. And before I give those guidelines, I want you to let me take us back a little bit. And it still happens today. I remember back then, a small provision store, you found out that every transaction made, there is always this higher education note that is ruled with, okay, this item was sold and this is the amount it was sold, and maybe this is what is left. Now, the truth is this: all this put together, at the end, you find out that they analyze their sales at the end of maybe the day, they analyze per week, they even go ahead to analyze per month, and that gives them an idea of, okay, the next time I go to the market, these are the goods that I need to buy. Now, that is data, even though it is in its raw form, in its crude form. So the informal sector, they still keep data. Maybe they just lack the understanding of technology on how to harness that data properly. And that's why businesses today who are maybe in the other sectors have resorted to making use of what we call, of course, we know the Excel sheets to keep a lot of this data. Now, how can these people harness this data? It's very simple. The informal sector gathers a lot of data which they don't even know how to use. Now, how can they use it? They can use it by, first of all, looking at sales. How much of sales were made today? How much of sales were made will be made tomorrow? They can project as a result of what happened today. Now, when they look at their data per week or per month, they can even go ahead to predict what would happen in the next month. Say, for example, looking at the past week data, they can find out that Tuesdays might be the day where they make more sales. And so, what it means is that the next month, every Tuesday, we'll try as much as possible to have a lot of stock because we might likely get more people to come and buy from us. That is one way. Another way is to leverage on technological tools to drive data use. And what are these technological tools? Basically, there are apps on phones, iOS, on Android, that can help you manage data. There is artificial intelligence. Every phone right now has the artificial intelligence capability. So small businesses can leverage on that. Your chat GPT basically is a strong tool that can help you analyze whatever data, whatever information you have, all right, in order to make the next decision that you want to make. So the informal sector gathers a lot of data, but then there is need for them to understand that there are tools that can help them harness this data properly to make the next big decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Goodluck. Now, let's bring it down and take it to the hub of society. Kunle wants to establish a photography studio, and because we have said that maybe data is not relevant, not to all businesses, but if Kunle wants to establish a photography studio, what kind of data should he go looking for? And how can this data, bring him out there and place him in front of those who will require those kind of services? But specifically, what kind of data will he be looking for?
All right, as much as possible, the kind of data that he should be looking for example, he needs to first of all find out people who need photography services. Who are they? Where are they? Are they found on the a busy corner of the street? Are they found in schools? Are they found in churches? And of course, when it comes to photography, you'll agree with me that all these places I have mentioned, you'll find people who need these services. How many people are having weddings every weekend? Kule needs to find out all of that. Where is the location where weddings happen most? Maybe in Lagos. All right. Kule needs to find out all of this information. That will help him to be able to come up with a brand promise or a unique proposition that he can leverage on to serve these people that are within his audience target. Okay, so it's very important. And how can he do that? He can find out all about this from his WhatsApp status. He can just go to his WhatsApp status and say, "Oh, I'm coming up with this idea. I want to start a photography. If you know anybody who needs my services, let me know. Let me know location." And sometimes, depending on the contact list that he has, you find people who probably will respond to his status and say, "Okay, I know there's a cousin of mine who is having a wedding this maybe next month. Maybe if you send me some of your products, some of your designs, all right, I can send to them, and if they like it, they might contact you to, do the job for them as much as possible." So getting data is not a problem. The problem, like I said, is how to use this data, or how best can this data be harnessed for proper decision making. That's on one side. Now, Kunle can also decide to just go on his Instagram and just go to his search page or search area and try to find out weddings coming up, this weekend. You find out that there are people who probably have scheduled events, all right, to happen at a particular point in time. And if he's good with his photography, he can begin to cold DM most of these people who have scheduled events and telling them that, "Oh, I run this service and I feel that if you allow me, I can give you the best experience as much as possible." Now, the person you reach out to, that man, I will be asking, "What experience do you want to give to me? I already have somebody who can do this for me." But because you probably want to come from a different direction, they might want to consider you. And at the end of the day, if Kunle is able to deliver, of course, he's able to make that money. So data is very important. You can't just get into a business without understanding what data has to say concerning that area that you want to delve into. Is very important.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Norum. Now, we must understand that in Sook News Television, our forte is business, economy, and development. And before coming with a topic like this for conversation, we must have consulted with some people around us. Most business owners will want to know when you're speaking with someone who's almost like an institution like you in this part. Now, let's take it a little bit higher. For those who have never before traded in the forex market or in the capital market, in stocks and in bonds, and they see this specific part of investment as belonging to a class of people, and they are trying to break even to that space to know how to invest, to know what to invest, either short term or long term, and they want to go into it. Let's assume they can do their findings by themselves and they want to get some form of data that will lead them on how to tailor their investment. What kind of data should investors in the forex and in stocks and bonds, what kind of data should they be looking out for, and through what medium? Just the way you explained that of Kunle.
All right. So as much as possible, looking at the forex market, of course, a lot of data is generated in that angle, and this data inform a lot of decisions that are being made by traders, by financial analysts, by business persons. As much as possible, if I want to go into that area, the first thing I would ever do is to bring out my phone and I'll go straight to ChatGPT, okay? And I'll ask ChatGPT to provide me data on trades for the previous week or for the previous month or for the previous year as much as possible. I'll ask ChatGPT to provide it for me. And ChatGPT has the capacity, of course, to search the web. And quickly, it will search the web and bring out a lot of information, a lot of data concerning whatever stock, whatever market instrument that I am interested in. Now, once that is once that has been done, the next thing I will now do is to, of course, try to screen that data, because you cannot just say, oh, because it looks like this company's stock performed well last week or last month, then I want to put my money in that stock. No, you can screen the data. There could be a lot of reasons why that stock performed well, and that those reasons might not, be available for the next trading session. You have to understand all of this before you decide, to go into that. Now, I just mentioned the kind of data to search for, market data concerning trades and stocks, and then through which medium, like you asked. And I said, ChatGPT basically can help you get a lot of data that you need, all right, in that area. However, talking about where to also get data and information again concerning stocks and trade, there is Bloomberg, all right. There is also there is it's a particular one I just saw recently. I think it's AI Invest, all right. It's a platform that has a lot of data concerning business, stock trading, market feasibility, and market information that investors can look into as much as possible to make decisions concerning whatever stock that they want to invest in. So all the information we need are at our fingertips. We just need to find out how we can use them or how we can access them.
All right, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. In your opinion, what do you believe is the biggest untapped opportunity in Nigeria's current economic landscape?
The biggest untapped opportunity, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that businesses are shying away from some of the capabilities that exist in data. I'll say it and I'll say it again. Some of the opportunities that exist in data, some of the financial technology companies that are doing well today in Nigeria, they are able to do well because they found a better way to harvest and harness data. If you don't know what the data is saying, you will not be able to know how best to take advantage of it. So, every business out there, every individual out there should focus on how to engage in businesses, in discussions that are data driven and not about emotion. The moment data drives certain decisions, the moment data drives different um, processes, you find out that businesses will do better. Now, when I mean data, I'm not just talking about data on, oh, customer behavior or how many sales can we make based on projection. No, there is also need to understand the business environment. A lot of businesses that have failed have not done well to understand the business terrain where they operate. And so when there is a policy change or when there is a huge competitor move, they are swallowed up. So data offers opportunities that are untapped in the Nigerian business space, and businesses that wants to thrive and do better must understand how to access data and how to make use of this data. Very important.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now, when making major decisions, what major data gaps do investors, federal governments, ministries, departments, what major data gaps do they face in making decisions in Nigeria?
Um, when it comes to data, okay. When
Second question, please. If you wrap this up in 2 minutes. Second question. According to World Bank, Nigeria ranks low in the ease of doing business. So my question is, how can data help solve this barrier and bring possible solutions?
Okay, good. Data gap. You find out that the challenge in accessing data, as far as Nigeria is concerned, and some businesses, is what we have always talked about over the years: infrastructure. It's a problem. Infrastructure is a huge challenge when it comes to accessing data, because accessing data is one thing, and storing data for future use is another thing. So, infrastructure is quite a challenge, and that causes a huge gap in data capture. So, for example, the basic barber on the street wants to try as much as possible to, of course, keep records of whatever customers that patronizes him. But you find out that this same customer has to spend money on buying fuel. He has to spend money on buying, different whatever service, whatever materials he would need for his job to be done properly. Now, electricity is a challenge for him. Companies have struggled with infrastructural deficit. Roads are bad. Telecoms is not reliable as much as possible. All of this put together creates a gap in data capture and data storage, as well as data usage. So, as much as possible, what stakeholders can do in that area, when I mean stakeholders, talking about the governments now, the users, and key decision makers in different sectors. What they can do as far as data is concerned is to first of all find a way to fix the infrastructural challenge that we have. Once infrastructure is fixed, it is easy to gather data, store data, and harness that data for effective decision making. So when it comes to data, data is not left for private businesses alone. It's not left for private sector organizations alone, but even the government, the public organizations also have need of data. So if from the government side, infrastructure is fixed, well sorted out, then it is possible that data can be captured properly for effective use.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I don't know if it's the same inadequate or deplorable level of infrastructure that is also responsible for the question I want to ask now, because most of the time you reference chat GPT when you talk about tools that we can utilize for capturing data or to get access to the kind of data that you aid the kind of businesses that entrepreneurs want to engage in. The reason why I'm asking that is because when you ask ChatGPT some kinds of questions, the kind of answer that it gives back to you is the kind of answer that business people in America should have access to. It's the kind of answers that people in the UK, people in Australia, or people in China should have access to. But when we talk about Africa, we see that the weather in Africa itself is peculiar. The business environment in Africa itself is peculiar, and even the laws that govern business interactions within the continent of Africa is peculiar. So some of the information that you request from ChatGPT or some of the tools that you mentioned may not give responses that is peculiar to solving the kind of challenge that business people go through in the continent of Africa. Is this also related with issues of data capture, insufficient infrastructure, or Africans, do we just have to go build our own kind of ChatGPT?
All right. So there is no need reinventing the wheel when it comes to this. I know that sometimes ChatGPT could hallucinate, if I use that language, and sometimes ChatGPT gives you a caveat that, oh, it can make mistakes, so whatever you need to fact check whatever it supplies you and all. Now, The truth is this: there is a way you can use that platform and you still get as much as needed information that will help you to make decision. But does it mean that you should rely on it 100%? No. You can fact check whatever it gives you. So there will be links. It could create you links to specific websites where it's called all those information from. And you could now go to that website to fact check whatever it is that's giving you. That's one. Two, we don't need to create our own chat GPT before we can say, yes, we have done well as Africans. No. All we just need to find out is fix what is beneath. So, what is necessary that can help us get the right information? We should fix it. And I keep saying it. Infrastructure is one. Two, technology literacy is another point. We need to train ourselves on the use of technology. We need to train ourselves how to be technologically fit so that we can be able to provide data, we can be able to store data that will help to harness information or that would help to contribute to decision making tomorrow. So, as much as possible, infrastructure is part of it. Technological literacy is also part of it. What are our schools doing when it comes to AI literacy, when it comes to technological training? What are the universities doing? We need to try as much as possible to fix all of that. My job at the Center for Data Analytics and Simulation in Caleb is to harvest data, is to collect data and store this data for information. Sometimes we want to understand what is the data on student satisfaction, and we can pull it out and we say, oh, this is what the data is saying according to student satisfaction. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying ChatGPT will give you all the information you need as far as Africa is concerned, but if used very well, if used properly and not generically, it can give you what you need and what you can leverage on for proper business decision making. It is very possible. It is possible.
Now, let's talk about education. And I'm glad that you are in that space. Do you think we should be waiting until we get to tertiary institutions before we start talking about data as a course, or before the young minds who are more techy the way they are, more than the young people 20 years ago? Do you think we should wait for that long, or it should be brought into our education space from primary school or secondary school?
All right, so we don't have to wait. That's my response. We don't have to wait until it is university time or tertiary education period before data should be talked about. Data literacy should start at the early stage of education. Children nowadays, kids nowadays, they even know a lot of things on phones that you don't know about. They know how to navigate a lot on their parents' phones or maybe their brothers or sisters' phone as much as possible. So if those kind of potentials are existing, then there is no need for us to wait until the university age before we begin to talk about data literacy. It has to start from the early stage.
All right, thank you very much. So, talking about data harvesting, in your own view, how is Nigeria, or how can Nigeria leverage big data for economic planning and, of course, policy decisions? And second question, how reliable is data from government agencies such as the Corporate Affairs Commission, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and, of course, the National Bureau of Statistics?
All right. So, thank you for that question. When it comes to big data, of course, it's called big data because it's massive data that have been generated for a period of time concerning different variables as much as possible. So, there is no best way to categorize it than to call it what? Big data. Now, data is essential as far as businesses are concerned. And so, big data comes into play here because it has the capacity of having information on different variables, on different parameters that are of relevance to individuals as well as businesses. So, talking about big data, massive data can offer businesses the advantage of understanding what the market is saying. It can offer them the advantage of understanding what the policy, all right, is saying concerning whatever variable or whatever parameter of interest as far as they are concerned. Big data is very, very key. Big data drives a lot of capabilities today. Talk about Internet of Things. What is making IoT very, very functional and possible today is because of its capacity to leverage on big data. Now, bringing it back home to Nigeria, talking about data harvesting, it is very, very possible to harvest data from different sources in Nigeria. You have public data sources such as the Nigerian Population Commission. You have the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics as well. And I think there is also the Lagos Bureau of Statistics where social data on social welfare, social issues can be, harvested from as much as possible. And there are also some, reliable data sources as well that businesses can leverage on. For example, there is Data Fight, all right, that tries as much as possible to provide data from the private perspective. Now, the question now is simple, just like you asked. Can we rely on this data? And you mentioned CAC as a case in point. Well, these are agencies that have been commissioned by the government, all right, to handle specific tasks. CAC relies so much, CAC focuses more on business registration and company um, formation issues. Now, we can rely on the CAC. Recently, CAC published a long list of, I think, businesses that are not registered or that are not properly registered. Now, that is data as far as we are concerned. Now, if as a customer or as an individual, you check through that list and you find that there is a business on that list that you have been dealing with, what it means is that you will start thinking of how to cut your ties with that business. Okay, so we can rely on them as much as possible. We can rely on them. The only challenge I have is that there should be more support. There should be more initiative towards gathering data based on these different from these different agencies. We can rely on them, but support is needed from the government to ensure that all the necessary equipment, all the necessary devices that each of these agencies need to function properly are provided so that it can improve their data capture capacity. And then, of course, it can also improve their capacity to make data available to the public for use.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Norum. Now, let's look at it from different aspects. My colleague has named a few ministries, departments, and agencies that have been saddled with the responsibility of, accessing data, storing data, and making use of those specific data when the need arises. Now, if we look at the functions of the local government, the state government, and sometimes including the federal government themselves, there are agencies of government that function at the level that they're supposed to get data. For local government, if they saddle with the responsibility of getting the birth rate, the death rate, when people give birth in society at the local clinic, they do registration there. And also, they're equally saddled with the responsibility of getting some form of tax from locally registered businesses at the local government level. Now, it doesn't seem that they are adding up when we seem to put that side by side with how much they generate for the governments at the different levels, either at the federal, the state, or the local government level. When organizations like external auditors want to investigate the process for us to have the true picture, how do they go about it? Because they go straight to these these MDAs who might give them the same information, and there's this round tripping, and there is no extra eye watching. How can we get past these loopholes?
Thank you for mentioning the extra eye. The extra eye thing is very important. And that is where that support that I mentioned earlier becomes more sacrosanct. At the local level, a lot of data is being generated, birth rate, death rate, and all of that put together. But the question is, and then the issue of collecting even levies from locally registered businesses. But the question is this: is there a mechanism in place to check what is recorded and what is logged on, maybe to a central system at the end of the day? Now, when you talk about the local governments, the wards, and all of that, are there computers, all right, that are available for them to quickly log in whatever information they harvest, and that goes straight to a central database? I don't think that is, I don't think it is so in some cases as far as Nigeria is concerned. And this is where support is needed. Support has to flow with providing um, computers that would help and devices that will help with data capture. So if a bet is registered today, it should go straight to the central database today. And how can that be possible? Quickly, somebody logs it on an internet-enabled computer, and it goes straight to the database. And so when it's time to collect data, then you don't have challenges of being sure whether the statistics is correct or not. So these are the issues. And how can we go about that? Like I mentioned earlier, support is needed. There should be an extra eye, like you mentioned, that could help to checkmate some of this. But the extra eye is not enough. The infrastructure has to be fixed first so that people can log in information they get immediately, and it goes to a central database where stakeholders can access them for real-time decision making. It is possible if we decide to make it work.
Yeah, okay, fine. Now, what is machine learning? They said artificial intelligence. Everybody seems to bandy the word around AI, AI. What's machine learning? What's AI? What's the data simulation exercise? And how relevant is it to data harvesting, data accessing, data creation, data storage, and the utility of data?
Thank you. When we talk about machine learning is nothing other than trying to teach systems, all right, how to learn, teach systems how to do things based on data available. You harvest data, and let's say the activity you are doing is a repetitive task. You can actually train an algorithm that will understand how to do that task over and over again based on the data that you're able to feed it. And that is nothing more but machine learning. These algorithms, they are machines. And then the process where they get information or where they get trained from data is where, of course, we refer to as the learning. For example, you log on to Netflix or you log on to your favorite food app, and based on your user history, based on your history, suggestions, personalized recommendations are presented to you. Now you begin to wonder, okay, it's because of my use history. That is why these um, opportunities, I mean, that's why these alternatives are popping up because of my use history. Now, that's machine learning. How is it possible? The machine has been trained to learn from your activities on the app or on the website. And so, from your activities, previous activities on the website, recommendations can be made on the kind of movies you may likely watch or the kind of product that you may likely buy. So that is what machine learning. On the other part, when you talk about simulation, okay, simulation is nothing more than trying to create a virtual representation of an ideal system. So the reason for simulation, pilots make use of this, aviation companies, and then even the naval forces, they make use of simulation as so much, where they try as much as possible to create virtual ideal situations, all right, and then allow their pilots to train in this virtual environment. Now that's simulation. So simulation is simple. It offers the advantage of trying out new ideas, trying out new possibilities without losing a lot of resources. Imagine what could have happened if there was no possibility to simulate an idea. You just waste money, you waste resources, you waste time. But if there is an environment for simulation, and then you bring an idea and it is simulated. Now, why it's being simulated? what is being checked for is what works, what doesn't work, how can we improve on what does not work, what are the challenges that may come up if we go this direction. Now, simulation allows you to be able to solve all of these problems, all of these challenges, so that when the real product, in case of a business now, so that when the real product is launched, some of the challenges that might be encountered would have been provided for in terms of solution previously based on the simulation. Talking about planning cities, planning urban environment, flight simulations, and all of that, it is possible through simulation. So rather than waste money, waste resources, it's always encouraged to have a simulation lab or a simulation process where all of these ideas are tested before being pushed out in the real world. And then about, of course, artificial intelligence is at the core of all of this right now as we speak. So machine learning works well because there is an algorithm that is ready or that is being trained to begin to think like you or begin to learn from data. And that's artificial intelligence. So the intelligence is not coming directly from you, it is coming from data that has been generated previously, but the machine is trained now to make use of that data such that when that machine encounters similar situations, similar environments, it is possible for it to make split second decisions. That is what we have on Tesla cars, as well as different robots that are being used in the advanced world to offer services, to make deliveries as much as possible. So artificial intelligence is just that extra intelligence that is obtained from robots or from machines as a result of training and simulation.
All right, thank you very much. Two questions in one again. Sorry about that. So the first question, you mentioned something about the National Population Commission, which is one of the most accurate data or one of the most essential data if you're going to capture both the formal and informal sector. But for years now, we've not really had an actual census. And we always say Nigeria is over 200 million people. Some have said that particular figure has been over bloated. Some have said that figure, we might be more than that. So first question is, why do you think we've not had that census? And could that also be essential for all types of in business decisions? Then secondly, another question I'd like to ask you is, what's your view now? If we don't have the national census, what's your view on using national IDs such as BVN, NIN in making certain business decisions or for social welfare programs?
All right, thank you. As much as possible, the NPC, the National Population Commission, of course, is supposed to be relied on for data as far as the population of the country, people in the country are concerned. And over the years, we have not been able to, have census. And why is it so? For me, I may be wrong. The reason we've not had census over the years of recently is because Nigeria in itself is not even ready. And what I mean by Nigeria in itself is not even ready is because when it comes to let's say we want to conduct census now, the question is, what is the security terrain saying? You want to send officials to areas that have security challenges. What is their safety like? I know some people will say, but when it comes to election, people now know that some areas exist. Even during election campaigns, let's be honest with ourselves, how many of these politicians are able to conduct campaigns in some rural areas? Most times security is a problem. So Nigeria's security situation is not improving as much as possible, and that could be a causative factor for why we've not had a census in the recent time. Another reason for that could also be uh, what is the budgetary provision for that? I don't know what the budgetary provision for that is for now, and then the people working in the MPC Commission and the National Population Commission, I wouldn't know what the budgetary provision is for them. And as much as possible, if all of these are in place, in addition to some other factors, then it will be difficult for us to talk about census for now. All we can always get is people saying, oh, Nigeria is more than 200 million, or Nigeria is about 200 million, and and the likes. Now that's on that part. Okay. Let me get your second question again.
I said, do you believe we can make use of national IDs such as BVN or NIN for social welfare programs?
You can, but there is a limit to that. And why I'm saying there's a limit to that is because it is not every Nigerian right now that has a national ID card. So any social provision, any social program that is being planned right now is going to be planned on faulty data. That's one. Talking about BVN and all of that, it is still not every Nigerian right now that has BVN. In fact, one of the recent statistics I saw, I can't remember exactly, was that the number of people who are unserved when it comes to financial inclusion seems to be more than those who are served. And so if you're going to use BVN as a basis for making decision when it comes to social welfare and the likes, that is also going to be a problem in itself. And then when you talk about voters registration, you find out that it is still not everybody that still comes out to get their voters card or do a voter registration. And the reason for that will always be, why will I stress myself? After registering and voting, they still decide on who will be there. Our votes don't count. And all of these factors put together try as much as possible to repress people, suppress people from coming out to engage in some of these civic responsibilities. So we can't rely on them 100% for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goodluck Norum, for your time with us. Dr. Goodluck is the head of Department of Business Administration and director of the Center for Data Analytics and Simulation at the Caleb University. He's a distinguished scholar and practitioner in business strategy and data science. Thank you so much, Dr. Norum, for your time with us on Just Africa.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
You're welcome. Now, Olumide.
Yes.
I like this conversation. I didn't want it to actually end.
I even wanted to ask him, so what is the most accurate data for social welfare programs?
Yes, because if NIN
BVN
and BVN
cannot work,
can't work or would not suffice,
yes.
Then what else are we looking out for? The time forbids me. I wanted to ask him because same government agencies will come asking you for the same BVN,
Yes.
NIN, your NEPA bill, your receipt for this and the code for that. Then another agency will come ask for the same.
Yes.
So it looks like we don't have a central data capture system where all MDAs and for government can access that pool of data to get whatever information they want. And for the private sector, of course, they can get permission from the government agencies for them to equally access same. But that seem not to be the case for now.
Because if you look at some of these initiatives for farmers, some of these initiatives for emerging entrepreneurs, soft loans and all that.
Vulnerable in society.
Yes, and whereby they say you must drop your BVN. And for those, because we know they are. And like he rightly said, he said the people who are underserved on banks, the population seems to be more than the ones that are banked, which is a very serious issue.
It is, and the government should take a very good look at that.